Full Metal Jacket, 1987, is a film adaptation of Gustav Hasford's novel The Short Timers, created by the legendary Stanley Kubrick. The movie depicts all facets and details of the Vietnam War. Full Metal Jacket is one of the most powerful and profound anti-war films in cinema history. Stanley Kubrick depicted war not as a heroic feat, but as a machine that grinds people down, destroys individuality, and turns soldiers into soulless instruments of killing. Kubrick chose the title deliberately. It derives from the military term full metal jacket bullet, referring to the world's most common ammunition, the full metal jacket bullet. Through this, Kubrick conveys that war strips away individuality, turning people into indistinguishable, smooth bullets capable only of killing. The film is divided into two parts, the military camp and the hell of Vietnam. Kubrick begins the story at the U.S. Marine Corps boot camp on Parris Island, South Carolina. From day one, recruits are subjected to immense psychological pressure, humiliation, grueling marches, and training. Leading the recruits is the explosively loud Sergeant Hartman, played by R. Lee Ermey, a real-life retired Marine who served in Vietnam. This is why his performance feels so authentic, unmatched in similar roles. He isn't acting, he truly behaves as he did during his service. In the film, Ermey holds the rank of gunnery sergeant, whereas in real life, he retired at a lower rank. However, after his incredible portrayal of such a tough character, an interesting phenomenon occurred. Applications to join the U.S. Marine Corps increased. As a token of appreciation, the United States Armed Forces awarded Ermey the rank of gunnery sergeant, just like in the film, making him the first retired serviceman in U.S. history to receive a post-retirement promotion. Thanks to the movie, Staff Sergeant R. Lee Ermey became a gunnery sergeant. The main characters of this segment are Privates Leonard Gomer Pyle, Lawrence, played by Vincent D'Onofrio, and James T. Joker Davis, Matthew Modine. The conflict in the first half largely revolves around the brutal dynamic between Sergeant Hartman and the clumsy, vulnerable Pyle. The nickname Gomer Pyle was given to Private Leonard Lawrence as a clear reference to a popular comedic character of that era, a dim-witted mechanic who constantly found himself in trouble in military settings. Gomer's presence in the Army is Kubrick's nod to Project 100,000, a U.S. Department of Defense initiative launched in 1966 during the Vietnam War under Secretary Robert McNamara. The program aimed to bolster troop numbers by drafting individuals who failed to meet standard intellectual and physical requirements. A total of 365,000 men were conscripted, but the project proved disastrous, resulting in casualty rates 3 times higher than average. Throughout the first half of the film, Gomer endures relentless humiliation and abuse from his fellow recruits, ultimately culminating in his suicide. Kubrick included this arc deliberately, a subtle yet scathing critique of this failed Pentagon experiment and McNamara's flawed policies. Boot camp becomes a factory where men are ground down into bullets. In a chilling moment, Hartman praises Lee Harvey Oswald, the alleged assassin of JFK, as the ideal American infantryman, a Kubrickian conspiracy hint. Hartman systematically breaks the naive, kind-hearted Pyle, stripping away his humanity to forge him into a lethal weapon. By the end, he succeeds. In the novel, when Pyle snaps and kills Hartman, the dying sergeant confesses pride in what the private has become, a perfect cog in the war machine. The second half plunges viewers into the Vietnam combat zone. Surprisingly, Kubrick filmed not in tropical locales like Thailand or Indonesia, but in London's derelict Docklands district. The bombed-out warehouses doubled convincingly for a Vietnamese city, their rubble and decay mirroring the war's devastation. The film doesn't immediately plunge us into combat. First, we witness an encounter between American soldiers and a Vietnamese prostitute, a scene both symbolic and literal. America has destroyed this country, ruining lives to the point where people must either take up arms or submit to their aggressors. The second part's protagonist becomes Joker. As a war correspondent, he's tasked with writing glorified accounts of American victories in Vietnam. Though immersed in the war, his observer status grants him unique clarity to assess the surrounding hellscape. We're also introduced to the editorial stance of Stars and Stripes, Joker's newspaper. In meetings, editors coach reporters on sanitizing language, replacing search and destroy with sweep and clear.
In place of search and destroy, substitute the phrase sweep and clear. Sweep and clear, got it?
Kubrick thus exposes military censorship at work. To boost the prestige of the not-so-popular invasion of Vietnam, the government expected only two types of news stories from military journalism. The first depicted an ideological victory, kind-hearted soldiers being welcomed with open arms by liberated Vietnamese. The second showcased the ruthless annihilation of the enemy without losses or defeats. Military correspondents managed to portray the Vietnamese as vicious invaders who had violated the sovereign borders of their own land. Guerrillas and ordinary civilians were equated with monsters by propaganda, not as people defending their homes and children, but as filthy gooks. Today, they are seizing Da Nang. Tomorrow, they are spreading the communist plague across the world. To fully grasp the horrors unfolding in Vietnam, we are shown a chilling scene of Joker's conversation with a Marine who is gunning down civilians from a helicopter-mounted machine gun.
How can you shoot women, children? Easy! You just don't lead them so much!
Kubrick masterfully portrays Joker's inner duality. On one hand, he condemns the war and maintains clear judgment. On the other, he remains complicit in both the conflict and its propaganda machine. This contradiction is visually embodied by the conflicting symbols on his helmet, the "Born to Kill" inscription, juxtaposed with a peace sign.
I think I was trying to suggest something about the duality of man, sir.
The what?
The duality of man, the Jungian thing, sir.
Later, Joker joins a combat unit. Notably, the enemy remains virtually unseen throughout, just fleeting muzzle flashes in the darkness. As the soldiers themselves admit, they're killing the wrong gooks, leaving the purpose of America's involvement hauntingly unanswered. A crucial barrack scene features Marines discussing the 1,000-yard stare, that vacant, dead-eyed expression unique to combat veterans.
The 1,000-yard stare. A Marine gets it after he's been in the shit for too long.
After killing the teenage sniper, that same hollow gaze appears in the Marine's eyes. Gomer Pyle had the same eyes in boot camp before he killed the sergeant. Their victory over a desperate schoolgirl becomes the turning point. These are no longer cheerful boys with guns, but brutalized animals. Yet, Kubrick pushes further. In the final scene, the squad marches toward the Perfume River, cheerfully singing the Mickey Mouse theme. Surrounded by smoldering ruins and the silhouettes of a destroyed city, their procession mirrors Nazi propaganda imagery. The message is unmistakable. This isn't freedom fighting or peacekeeping, but pure fascism in action. They're not marching toward a river. They're marching straight into hell. From a technical standpoint, the film is flawless. All the combat scenes and set designs are recreated as realistically as possible, creating a complete sense of presence and deep immersion in the events of the Vietnam War. The acting performances are outstanding across the board, and rightfully so. In particular, R. Lee Ermey's work stands out, as I mentioned earlier. Perhaps it was his military background that allowed him to deliver a performance like no one else before or after him. As a result, he went on to win a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor. Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket stands as an unflinching anti-fascist parable. The film's visceral brutality forces viewers to confront war's true nature and draw their own conclusions.